Straw Hut Media.
Hey Rewinders, you ready for a 90s R-rated action blockbuster double feature? Welcome to another episode of Release Date Rewind, a podcast that celebrates movies and milestone anniversaries. I'm your host, Mark J. Parker, a film lover and filmmaker, and thank you for listening to my show on the Straw Hut Media Network wherever you get your pods or watching on YouTube. We're going back to summer 1994 in this episode and buckling up for explosions, guns, and terrorism. Which sounds bad, I know. Terrorism is never, ever good, but in this case, it makes things exciting. We're celebrating the 30th anniversaries of Jan de Bont's Speed, which was released on June 10th, and James Cameron's True Lies, which was released on July 15th. Strong leading men, funny leading women, and deranged bad guys. I mean, what more could you want in a couple of summer movies, right? Now, if you need to watch or rewatch these successful hits, Speed is currently streaming on Starz, and True Lies is on Hulu. All right, hostages, you ready for a pop quiz? Hold on tight because it's time to rewind. Everybody, I am so excited. She is back, yet again. Katie Bruno, the one and only, is back on Release Date Rewind. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thank you for having me back yet again.
And everybody, she has come back with plenty of notes. She just flashed them. Do you want to flash again for anyone watching?
Flashing people.
She does.
People.
She's a big
Got
flasher.
my notes.
Oh,
Got
look
my
at
notes.
that. Wow, look at those assets. Yes.
Typed out and written on the sides. Yeah.
Such a good student of film. Always, always. So, Katie, we were just talking about the heat and how summer is, fun, but sometimes hard. I remember growing up, we didn't always love summer. We liked the cooler fall. But are you having a good summer so far?
I am, yeah. I do love summer. I finally got out to the beach. We went to Wildwood last weekend,
Nice.
and stayed in one of those beach motels, the Lollipop Inn.
The Lollipop Inn. I saw your stories.
It
What was
sounds
that
like the start of a murder movie. Like it literally, like
A Lollipop Inn, and it's a killer.
I even had a key and everything, like instead of the car. It was like super. It was really fun. We had a great time, so that was really fun. Finally got to the beach.
Nice.
I was telling you off before we started recording. My parents came up and we built a new deck in my house, so I now have a deck that doesn't look like it's going to murder people by you falling through. So it was blood, sweat, and tears went into this thing, but it's built, it's done. So yay!
Now, out of the blood, sweat, and tears, what was the biggest amount of one of those liquids? Was there more blood? Was there more sweat? I assume the most of it was sweat. Hopefully not
because it was so hot. It was so
hot.
I know. And my dad is a machine. He just kept going. But
That's
we all
impressive.
got injured, and I'm joking now, the deck hungers, it needs blood. So if you come over, you have to do a little blood sacrifice.
Oh my God! Before you step onto it, that's so funny. And then the wood just drinks it up. Yeah.
All right, pop quiz. Airport. Gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover. He's almost to a plane. You're 100 feet away.
What do you think? Shoot the hostage.
What?
Go for the good wound and he can't get to the plane with her. Clear shot.
You're deeply nuts, you know that?
Now, everybody, we're going to rewind. We're going to go back in time 30 years ago. Wow. We were just babies, basically.
Yeah,
Not really, but
7. Yeah.
We were 7. Yeah, we were 7 in the summer of 94 when these two awesome, high octane action thriller comedies for True Lies, a little bit of comedy and Speed for sure. You laugh here and there. It's a little campy for sure. But these amazing movies, Speed and True Lies, came out in the theater. Now, Katie, did you see either of these in the theater or were you too young?
No, I was, because you always ask this, and I had really thinking about first time viewing. I remember my first time viewing True Lies. It was at my house, and
love your house. Oh my gosh, we watched so many movies at that house.
In the movie room, my dad's den. Because I remember us making comments mainly my parents making comments during the movie, that wouldn't happen, or that, we'll go into that. But and Speed, I want to say, I feel like I definitely saw it at my house, but I can't remember if we saw it. I think I was with my family, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we might have been, because we had a house up in the Poconos and we would rent movies all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time or watch movies
Yeah.
when we saw them. I
Yeah.
don't, that's my memory. But yeah, I'm too young to see in the theaters. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
me
too,
too.
but
Yeah, I hear you because I was trying to figure it out because I'll talk in a second about what other popular movies were in the theater, and there was one massive popular film that we saw, definitely, I'm sure, in the theater. So I'm like, did
Mhm.
I see these? But no, I think we were just a little too young. Although I remember definitely seeing Speed 2, Cruise Control, a few years later. That was definitely in the theater,
See,
and
you saw in
I
the theaters. I rented that because I remember
okay.
we were older then, and
Mhm.
we rented that gem of a movie. And I actually tried to watch it, like, because I watched Speed.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep going with this. But it was renting, and I'm like, I'll pay to watch Speed. I'm not paying to watch Speed 2
No,
Cruise
no, yeah,
Control.
don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
3.99 only
Oh,
was
yeah.
that
That's
one.
so sweet you even rented the original Speed. Absolutely. I
Oh,
mean,
I no problem
I
doing that. It was like
I
for
know, it's
$3
so
for
good.
Speed 2. No way, Jose.
I
So
know. You're like 99
I do
cents
want to
max.
rewatch it though, because I do
Me
enjoy
too.
it. I do
Me
enjoy it,
too.
like but it's so bad.
It's just so I mean, it's both a great idea and an awful idea. You know what I
It's
mean? Like
yes. Yeah.
Sandy Bullock and a new boyfriend because Keanu
Yeah,
refused to
Jason
come back,
Patrick.
right?
I know.
Jason
He was
Patrick.
smart. Keanu was smart. Never
Yeah.
say he's a dumb man. He saw that and he was like, "No."
But I do love that they like love each other. Like I remember like the year Crash, that movie Crash won Best Picture that Sandra Bullock
Mhm.
was in. I remember
Mhm.
Keanu was her date. Like they've
Oh, I
always like
forgot about that.
stayed in touch. Yes,
Well,
uh-huh. And
yeah, it's funny, and they actually, well, this is a fun fact, but they actually fell in love with each other during Speed, but like
I
didn't say
believe it.
anything, and then just like just never happened, and then they went their separate ways, but stayed
Uh-huh.
friends, and so they admitted it like years later, like
Oh,
actually. So maybe I wonder
I
if it was
w-
like they
I
both
want it to
felt it,
happen
but neither
now.
said anything. Oh, I
Yeah,
know. They
I
both
know.
deserve to be happy, but I think he is happy. I think they're both in nice relationships or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what her
She
deal
has
is. I know
her
she has
adopted
her
kiddos that are super cute,
exactly.
or just the one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Maybe
keep
just
up with
one.
Hollywood.
I forget, but do you wanna hear something crazy since we're talking about them? I looked this
Yeah.
up when I was rewatching the movie. I forget why I looked it up, but I was just like, "Let me just see how old they were." They were oh my god, they were turning 30 in 1994, so can you believe they are about to both turn 60? Like, I
Oh my
felt like I
God.
saw my life flash before my eyes. I was like, "Wait, Keanu and Sandra are about to be 60 years old?
60. That's
Whoa,
nuts.
we're getting old."
I
You
know.
know? It's crazy. And, it's funny because
Um,
Courtney Cox just had her 60th birthday, but she seems older to me than they do. Maybe it's, like, from the plastic surgery, like, how that actually does sort of
yeah.
age you a little bit, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, but she
She's
still looks amazing, and she's a total
oh,
babe
she's
and,
gorgeous. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, we digress. Let's go back, Katie, to June 10th, 1994. First up, everybody, we are talking about Speed. Then we'll move over to July 94 with True Lies for this action double feature. So, Katie, I'm going to just set the scene. This is what was going on the weekend of June 10th, 94. Oh my gosh. Hate to bring it down, but this was the same weekend that Nicole Simpson Brown, OJ's former wife, was murdered.
Oh, wow. Well, when Speed came out, they compared the Bronco, because he drives a Bronco, and so they kind of
Yes.
compared the aerial shots. They're like, "Oh, this is very similar to the OJ because it just happened." And then Speed came out, and they're like, "Wait a
Yes.
minute."
Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? No, I looked it
It's
up. Isn't this so crazy? The Bronco whole thing happened 1 week later. Isn't that
yeah.
wild? It
It's so
happened on June
eerie.
17th. That is so eerie
Mhm.
because as I'm rewatching the movie, because it's been a long time since I had watched both of these films, but as I'm rewatching Speed, so much of those aerial shots, I'm
Yes.
like, "Whoa, this feels just like that chase."
And
And
it's a
then I looked up
Bronco, and it's a chase,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
yeah, I was reading on to I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize." Yeah, that's super eerie
Wild.
because they filmed it months and months
Oh,
before that,
yeah.
so,
They
of course,
probably filmed it, yeah, in, like, late '93 at least,
yeah,
with all the
yeah,
yeah, so that is crazy, and also just how Dennis Hopper's character is so glued to all the screens, all the live news coverage. I mean, it's crazy how like that was a premonition for what was about to happen. Wild. So she had just passed away, unfortunately. Grisly, terrible murder there. But on lighter notes, on the music side for June 10th, 94, I Swear by All for One was the number one song. And I
oh
think we
my god.
talked about that when we talked about probably The Mask, because everybody, the last time Katie was on, we talked about some 1994 hits. starring the one and only Jim Carrey. So if you haven't listened to those, check those out because Katie is like my 1994 queen this
I
year.
know, clearly,
right?
yeah. I just
Right? Isn't that wild? I mean, it was a good year for movies. I mean, we
It
had
was
great
a
comedy, great
fantastic year.
action.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, and also, it's funny to see like really good movies that had big budgets because I feel like now a lot of movies that have big budgets, they're fine. Some are good, but like a lot of them are not so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
But
different
these,
nowadays.
it's fun to like go back to like this period where like, studios were spending money, but the stories were good, really,
Mhm.
really solid.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so All for One had I Swear. That was the number one song. The number two song was our girl Madonna with I'll Remember. I love that song.
That's a
So
good
good.
one.
Such a
Yeah.
good one. So that was the number two song. Other popular movies, everybody. City Slickers 2 came out the same day as Speed. Fun fact, I've actually never seen any of the City Slickers movies. Or how many
I
are there?
s
2 or 3?
There's 2 because
There's
there's
2.
the Search for the Gold or something. Yeah,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
I can't remember. I've seen the first one. It's good.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen the second, but it's been many, many, many
It's blurry.
years.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm sure maybe clips, but they never
Yeah.
really like called to me. But City Slickers 2 was brand new, same day as Speed. Other popular movies, The Flintstones, the
Oh,
live
I saw
action
that in the
one.
theaters.
Yes. See, that's what I mean. I'm like, well, I was seeing The Flintstones, I was seeing some other
Yeah.
stuff. So,
Well, we're
you know,
7, so that's what
I
we would
know.
have seen. Yeah, I
Oh yeah.
definitely saw that in the theaters, and I remember
Uh-huh.
seeing it in the theaters.
Oh
I think
yeah.
it was with my family. I don't think we had
Yeah,
that.
I
Oh,
think
we
I
saw
went
it
with
in
my
the
family as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, that was super fun. Rosie O'Donnell, John Goodman, all these
Mhm.
good people, right? Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is funny because now there's a new Beverly Hills
I wanna
movie
see it.
on
Yeah.
Netflix, right? I think it
Yeah.
just
I just
came out.
rewatched the first one. I wanna rewatch the 2nd and 3rd before
Yeah,
I
I need to
partake in the new
totally.
one.
It's been years. I don't even
It's
know if
been
I've
years.
seen some of those sequels. I think I saw the original. Oh, and maybe how many were there? Is this the
There's
fifth
3.
one? Oh,
This is the 4th.
this
There's
is the
3.
fourth. Okay, so I do remember Beverly Hills Cop 3. I remember the
Yeah.
last one because I feel like there's something in like an amusement park. Am I right?
I
Like a
think
ride?
so.
Something
Yeah,
like a
it's
Ferris
been a
wheel?
long time since I just
So
rewatched the
long.
first one. It had been a while since I'd seen that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched it with my parents when they were here. I was like, "Oh, I should
Oh,
rewatch the 2nd and
fun.
3rd," 'cause I don't remember the plot. I don't remember,
Yeah.
like,
I know. They get
but
blurry, but yeah,
yeah.
it's fun to just see the cyclical like, okay, well, the last movie was 30 years ago and now there's a new one, right? So
Mhm.
that was popular. Maverick with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster, like a
Yeah.
period western,
Yeah, that's good.
like
I like that.
yeah, that was a fun one. And The Crow, that was also in the top
Oh.
10. The Crow's a spooky one with, of course, Brandon Lee, who we know what
I'm
happened on
surprised you
that.
haven't done that one on your show, The Crow.
I was thinking
There's
about it,
so
but
many good
for
movies, though. There's so
it's
many good
just it's so
ones.
many, yeah, and I think instead I opted for other because that came out in May of '94, and that was still
Okay.
in the theater, so I opted for some other
Well, I'm
ones,
interested in the new one that's coming out. Did it
I
the
know,
new
yeah,
one
it came
supposed to come
out.
out?
I
Oh, it
I
already
guess
came out? Oh my
I
god, I'm
think it
so
already
behind.
came out.
'Cause I was
Yeah,
interested in seeing it. I think it looked kinda dicey, but
I know,
yeah.
it looks so slick and, like, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
tough because the original is pretty unique. I mean, that is, like,
it
a
is.
pretty,
I just rewatched that recently,
rare
actually.
kinda movie. Yeah?
Yeah,
How does that hold up?
it's really good. Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
dark. It's very like,
It always creeped me out.
it's
Like, it's
very
not a
creepy.
scary movie, but it
No.
always made me feel like that was just, like, haunted. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Haunted, dark,
it is,
gritty. Yeah.
right?
So I was interested in the
Exactly.
new one to see what they would do with it. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was a million sequels too. So, there's,
Oh,
like,
yeah, I know, with, like,
15
Kirsten Dunst, with, like, all
Oh,
these different people through the
so
years,
many
yeah.
different yeah,
Yeah.
Edward
Direct
Furlong was
to
in one of them. He was the
Uh-huh.
crow in, like, I think maybe the 3rd one or something, so
Yeah,
going back to
that
our
was, like, at a
Terminator.
time exactly. That was, like, at a
Mhm.
time, like, mid to late '90s where, like, there were some franchises that were, like, direct to video, direct to DVD, and I guess they were
Crow,
popular enough to keep
Hellraiser. Hellraiser's
Oh,
another one I was
yes.
stumbling
Mhm.
upon sequels. I'm like, "I don't know if I've seen this sequel," so I watched
And you know
us
what's so funny? Bringing up both of them, they were Dimension films. So, like, while Scream and other
Oh.
movies were in theaters, certain franchises Dimension was pumping out for home video. So,
Hmm,
that was that whole
interesting.
very dark, moody, cool, slick-looking era of, like, horror thrillers, all that Dimension was doing. But, yeah, so that's what was going on, everybody. Now, Katie, I'm gonna throw it over to you. It's that time where you tell us in your own words. It can be I mean, it's a pretty simple story, but in your own words, what is Speed about? If you had 30 seconds before the bomb explodes, what is it in 30 seconds?
All right. So basically, it kind of opens with this really exciting scene with the elevator, and there's a bomb, and
Mhm.
there's a mad bomber that's gonna blow it up unless he gets money. And then there's this like hot shot rookie cop, Jack
Oh.
Travin,
Mhm.
and he foils the plot essentially. And Dennis Hopper's character is the bomber, Howard Payne. And after that, Howard escapes. They save all the lives, they save all the people. Howard's pissed. So he is out for revenge. So some time goes by. You know, Jack and his partner Harry, played by Jeff Daniels, get awards for their valor and all that good stuff, and that just pisses Howard off. So sometime later, we don't really find out how much time later, but sometime later,
Right.
Jack is pretty much targeted. So his a bus gets blown up in front of him. He knew the driver, and then a phone rings and it's the bomber. And he's like, I'm out to get you, and it's on. So he's like, there's another bomb on a bus. If it goes above or below 50, it's gonna blow. And so he tells him where the bus is. So Jack's got to get to the bus. He gets to the bus in this exciting chase,
Oh.
through the freeway to get catch up to this bus and let them know, like, don't slow down. He gets on the bus, and then they have to, just with the help of the beautiful Sandra Bullock playing Annie,
So damn cute.
um,
Mhm.
navigate the crazy freeway and streets of LA, keeping above 50 so no one blows up. They're crashing into things, side swiping things, jumping over ridiculous gaps in a freeway that are just randomly there. Why is there a gap in that freeway? Uh,
I know, I'm like, LA, like, finish the roads.
Damn it, Charles! I told you to finish that fucking freeway last night. So anyway, so they go through this craziness, and it ends with they foil the plan. They're able to get everyone off the bus through a very smart trick that Jack plays on
Oh,
Howard with the
so smart.
videotape. Love it. And then they eventually save the day, and they save everyone. The bus does blow up in a plane, but that's beside the point. No one gets hurt except the plane and the bus. And they saved the day, and yeah, yay.
Love it. Yes, you make me wanna honestly rewatch it again. It is
It's so
such a
good.
great
It's so
movie, Katie. I love
good.
that we're talking about it. I love this movie because Speed, everyone loves it. I feel like it does get a little bit of flack because it's like, "Oh, yeah, that crazy movie,"
Well,
and
so was
maybe
like Die Hard on a bus.
right,
They
Die Hard in a
very
bus.
people dismiss it,
Right.
at times,
Mhm,
yeah.
and it's hard because when even the stars, like, not that Sandra Bullock dismissed the first one, but then when she just, was, like, regretted doing the sequel, it kinda tarnishes the original a little bit, so it gets a little bit of flack. Like I said, it's a little campy, there's some like, really funny lines. Dennis Hopper is, like, acting for space, like, the aliens can
Yeah,
see how big his performance is, right? But I love it. I love
love
it all
it.
so much, and rewatching it, I was truly brought back to being a kid, like, watching
Mhm.
this at home, like, probably sitting on the floor inches from the screen, just like,
Right?
"What?"
'Cause it's
It is so
nonstop.
impressive.
It is a
It's
very, like
nonstop.
very, like,
Mhm.
quick movie. It's clean, like, there's not a lot of downtime, which is
Not
good
at
because it's not
all.
the idea is speed. Like, it's gonna be
Mhm.
speeding and going very fast, so
I see
there's
what you
very
did
little
there.
downtime. I know,
Mhm.
very, like,
Very good.
witty, huh? But it makes
Yep.
sense. It just goes. Like, there's really
It goes.
no
Yeah.
downtime, no lull time. Very few scenes are, like, kinda chill. It's go, 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 and even though I've seen this movie probably, like, 30 times, I'm still, like, eating popcorn, like, what and I just saw
Oh
it
my
back in
gosh.
December when I was texting you, so I even
Yes.
watched it more recently. So I'm
Uh-huh.
still
Oh, I
like,
love
"Wow, this
it.
movie's really good."
It's so good.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody, I have to say, Katie messaged me, yeah, was it back in December already? Like
it was
6 or
December because I
7?
was stuck at my brother's
Wow.
house waiting for my car to get fixed, and it came on. He had Stars, and we both just, like, start watching it from the beginning, and I'm like, "Wait a
I
minute,
love that.
this is 30 wait a minute," and that's when I texted you. I'm like,
Yes.
"Are you doing Speed?
Katie
Like, it's
sent me a
30
message
years
saying,
old."
"Hey," yeah, you were like, "FYI, Speed is gonna be 30." I'm like, I'm a one step ahead of you. You wanna come on in the summer?" And here we are. We'll be right back.
All right, gentlemen, what we have here are 13 passengers in an express elevator. Bomb's already taken out cables. Bomber wants $3 million or he blows the emergency brakes.
Anything else that'll keep this elevator from falling?
The basement.
Even if you've only seen it just a couple times, I mean, you remember moments, like, you remember when Sandra has to get to the wheel, and like I remember her squeals, with the kids and the baby stroller, the
And
baby
she hits the
carriage.
baby stroller
Oh
and
my gosh, like it takes you on such a ride, and like you said, it does not stop. Like, that
yeah.
elevator sequence is epic. Like, that alone is an amazing short film. That's like,
Yeah.
and then you
It's
realize,
so
wait, we're not even
good.
at the bus yet. Like, whoa,
Right?
Oh,
Exactly. Such a great and I wrote that great opening scene with the elevator.
excellent.
And they
Yeah.
actually built that whole set that's like 5 stories high or something. Like they built like
Wow.
it had like a working elevator and everything. Like
Oh my
so
god,
it's
brilliant.
really like well done.
That I mean, you can't do speed in an elevator, I guess, but, like, that could have been its own spin-off movie, like,
It would be
like,
called Elevator. I don't even
fast elevator.
Super fast elevator.
But, like,
Um,
just to be one of those elevator, like, I say extras, but they really, they were important roles. They all, like, had a lot to do. But, like, the one
yeah,
woman at the end who's like, "No, I can't go."
right? It's
I'm
so
like,
scary.
"Oh my gosh."
That
And
scene
just
is
the way
great.
Dennis Hopper is introduced, how
Mhm.
right off the bat, like, he's the first character we basically see when that security guard opens the door. "Oh, you can't be here. This is restricted." And then, like, I don't even know what the weapon is, but right in the guy's head,
Right
it's
in
like
the head.
a
Ooh,
some sort of, oh my gosh.
knife or
I'm like,
something, I don't remember.
We
Yeah,
are on.
you're
It
in
is a
it.
go,
You're in it.
Yeah.
He can strike anywhere, at any time.
Will the mystery guest please sign in?
Why are they messing with me? Do they think I'm doing this for fun?
It just starts off really strong. And it's
Mhm.
funny, like that scene was actually inspired. The director did cinematography for Die Hard, John
Yes.
DeBont,
Yes.
and he was stuck in an elevator while filming Die Hard. They were stuck on the
Oh god.
40th floor and had to be rescued through the rooftop hatch. So it inspired him, like that scene. He's like, okay, like he kind of took inspiration from that, which is funny. Anytime I'm in an elevator, I think of that. I think of Speed because
Yeah.
I don't like elevators. And I was just in one the other day because I was in an apartment building and I was thinking like, oh man, what if I got
Yeah.
stuck in this thing and like Dennis Hopper's on the other line, like, oh my gosh, shit.
And
Um,
Dennis Hopper doesn't have a thumb, and then he's, like, on top of the elevator, like, trying to, like, shoot us.
but
Exactly,
I
I know.
do think that like this movie is one of many that I think of with elevator when I'm in an
Yeah.
elevator. But yeah, it's a really
Well,
good.
if
It
you want
starts off really
another
strong.
if you want another crazy elevator movie, so Greg heard about this, oh gosh, I don't know what the country is, but they're foreign films. They might be Swedish, or
Mhm.
yeah, I think they're Swedish films. Oh god, I should know, or Austrian. I should know, but they're European films. The first one is called The Wave, and the second one is called The Quake. It's a sequel, and they came out a few years ago. Oh my gosh, please watch them. They are amazing, amazing, epic action disaster movies. And the
Really?
second one, The Quake, there is a whole elevator shaft sequence that made me think of
Ugh,
Speed. Like,
yeah.
it makes a great double feature. I'm telling you, everybody, The Wave and The Quake, I think they're from like 2015, 20 and
Where are they
2017.
streaming? Are they
I
somewhere I
found
can
them on, I think we had to rent one on like Amazon or whatever, but then the other one is on the app Hoopla. If you've ever heard of that, that is through your
mm-mm.
library. So if you have a
Oh,
library like
okay.
that's associated with it, you can see it for free, but you can rent them. But Katie, this elevator shaft scene, oh my God, my palms were sweating. Much like Speed. My palms were just like,
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
check it out.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
crazy.
The game began.
Very exciting, Jack. Some close calls, huh?
When someone put the city of Los Angeles to the ultimate test.
I'm now going to just briefly go through our main key players, what they were, doing before this, where they were in their careers. So yes, Katie brings up the director. I believe it's Jan de Bont,
Oh, is it
who
Jan
later
de
went
Bont?
on,
Okay.
because I forget, he's European. He later went on to direct Twister, which I've talked about on
Yes.
this show, and The Haunting remake. Kind of random for an
Wait,
action.
we saw that together.
We saw that one together, and remember
That's
we
what we
ruined it
got
for
yelled at
everyone.
for being
Uh-huh.
loud and
We were so
laughing.
obnoxious. Oh my God.
We were.
I don't even want to, I don't
It was
even want
bad.
to
We were
remember what
assholes.
we were just, yeah. But so he did that. And of course he did direct, he came back with Sandra Bullock for Speed 2. But this was his directorial debut. It is
Mhm,
insane that this was his first movie as a
mhm.
director. But like you
Yeah.
said, he had been a DP on big famous movies, Die Hard, Basic Instinct, whole bunch of stuff. And going back to Madonna, who had the number 2 song, he randomly shot. Do you remember Who's That Girl? The Madonna movie in the 80s where it's
Oh
her
yeah.
and Griffin Dunn, and it's like a really silly comedy. I loved it as a kid. He
Yeah.
did the cinematography for that movie randomly. So,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know. So that's Jan de Bont, what he was doing up until this time. This was written by Graham Yost, who another debut. This was his first feature film debut. But did you see
But
what he had?
yes, I
Yeah,
did.
say it, say it.
So it's a whole thing. It's really interesting. And I have a question for you on this. So
Ooh, okay.
Joss Whedon wrote the dialogue. So Graham Yost wrote the original script, and actually Keanu Reeves initially turned it down because he wasn't a fan of the original script.
I did hear that.
And I think Jan de Bont kind of was like, okay, so he brought on Joss Whedon to rewrite the script, but he's uncredited.
He's uncredited.
So,
Yeah.
and I found that so interesting. And apparently, Graham Yost is the credited writer, but Joss did most of the dialogue, or pretty much all the dialogue, which makes sense because
Wow.
the dialogue's really good.
Yeah, and now that you say that, yeah, it makes total sense because the dialogue snaps, especially for Annie, like
Mhm,
she's pretty snappy, pretty quippy, even under stress. It's
mhm.
giving a preview to how characters would be in his other stuff for sure.
Yep.
This is much better.
But Graham Yost, I thought this was funny. First feature script, which is another, surprising thing that this guy didn't really write many other big things, but he's done a lot of TV in his career. One of the TV shows he was writing before this, Hey Dude on Nickelodeon. How random.
Oh, it's a little wild and a little strange.
Yep. Isn't it
Sorry.
so random? I'm like, Hey Dude to Speed. Okay. But after Speed, he did write a movie that I have it's a guilty pleasure, Hard Rain. Do you remember Hard Rain with Christian
I
Slater
do.
and
I like Hard Rain.
yeah.
Because I remember watching that at a friend's house, like in the basement, and I'm like, this movie's ridiculous. I love it. Like
I love
it's
it.
so ridiculous. You're like, wait, what? Like it's
And
just
of
about
course,
a really rainy day.
yeah,
Like a really awful
and
rainy
everything's
day.
going wrong. Uh-huh.
Everything
Of
is
course,
going
the writer
wrong.
of Speed would write Hard Rain. I'm like, okay, now that I know that, makes perfect
Right.
sense. Yep. So that's Graham Yost. Now, real quick, I'm going to just talk about our lead actors. They are all
Mhm.
so amazing in this movie, and they all
Great
look so
cast.
good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great,
Both
great.
movies. I love the casts in both
Yes,
movies.
both of
Yeah.
these movies, the
Such a
cast is
good.
just giving
Yeah.
their all. Exactly. So we have, of course, our leading man, Keanu Reeves. What a babe, what a hunk.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like, oh my God, of course, he makes perfect sense in this movie. These are the movies he was doing just leading up to this in the last year or two. So, Little Buddha, Much Ado About Nothing, which I remember seeing in
Oh.
school with
Mhm.
Denzel and a whole bunch of people. I
Same.
totally forgot he has a cameo in the movie Freaked. Do you remember Freaked? It's a weird, wacky movie where it's a comedy where like friends stumble upon a weird, sick, demented, like freak. It's Randy Quaid, and he.
You've told me about this
Did I
before.
tell you about
Okay,
this?
because
Okay.
because we talked about Independence Day with Randy Quaid, and you talked
Oh,
about
okay.
Freaked.
Did I
This
bring that
is
up?
I'm like,
Uh-huh.
wait, I haven't seen it, but you talked about it before, and
Well,
he's
fun fact,
yeah.
it's free on YouTube. So if you're ever in the mood to watch a
Okay,
really weird
I might
30-year-old,
just check this out.
like balls to the wall, gross, goofy, dumb comedy, watch Freaked.
And
Yeah, Randy Quaid
okay,
and one of the
I'm in.
friends that goes to this place is, I believe it's Keanu's co-star from Bill and Ted, Alex Winter. So I think
Alice
that's
Winter.
why then
Oh,
Keanu makes a cameo in
because I
that.
was
So I thought
wondering
that
why
was funny.
he cameo in a movie like that. Because I'm like, by '93, he kind of had some star
Oh
power.
yeah,
Not, he wasn't as big as he is now, but like,
right. Yeah.
yeah, okay, that makes
He was
sense.
definitely on
Alex
the
Winter.
rise, yeah. So Freaked, and of course, Dracula, one of my all-time faves.
Love.
I've talked about that on the
I
show, and
know,
I
love it.
know notoriously it was not a great performance from him, but he got better. He definitely got better.
He
We can
tried.
So that's Keanu. Over to Sandra Bullock, who was not yet like a big, big star, but this catapulted her into
Yep.
total fame. Right before this, another big action movie, Demolition Man, that
One of
we've
my
talked about.
favorites.
Yep,
One of my
with
favorites.
Wesley
I
and
love it.
Sylvester Stallone. I will never forget that scene where she and Sly Stallone are like having like thought sex. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
We're not even gonna
So,
kiss. Oh, disgusting. I'm like, I love
but she did
it.
Demolition Man. She had just done this movie Fire on the Amazon, which if anyone knows, So that was this little movie that was almost pornographic. Like she's in a hot
Oh.
sex scene with Craig Sheffer. If you remember
Oh.
him, he
Yeah.
was the stud back in the day. But I remember like it didn't really go anywhere until Speed and like While You Were Sleeping a few years later. Then it was like,
Mhm.
at all the video stores. And I remember reading back then she was trying to like squash it. She was trying to like get
Oh,
them,
yeah.
So fire on the Amazon. She was in the remake of The Vanishing, which I still need to see. Apparently it's not so good. Did you ever see
The
that one?
Vanishing 90s?
Yeah, so that was in 93. She's in that. The original was in the 80s, and I believe that's another European
Okay.
film. I started it, but it's a little slow, but I know it's
Okay.
like apparently one of the like most intense thrillers. So I got to really
Oh.
finish it. Vanishing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't seen it.
And she was in Love Potion #9, which that
I
kind of
love
started,
Love Potion number
yeah.
9.
That was like a
That's one
big deal for
that would
her.
be on Comedy Central, and I'd, like, watch it all the
Yes.
time. It's like
Mhm.
such a fun movie, and she's adorable in it. Yeah, she's
So
great.
adorable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's her. And then real quick, Dennis Hopper. What an
Mhm.
icon. What a
Mhm.
perfect bad guy. I mean, just perfectly cast. He had just
Mhm.
done True Romance, which a lot of people love. He was in True Romance just about 6 months or so before. And the year before, I've talked about it on this show, Super Mario Brothers as King Koopa.
His greatest role ever, Avi.
Greatest role,
Where was the
tongue, lizard
Oscar?
tongue. Yeah.
Where's my pizza? Sorry. Katrina and I do that line all the time.
Last but certainly not least, we got to talk about someone we talked about in an episode earlier this year, the one and only Jeff Daniels. What a
Yeah.
great year for him.
A
Speed
great year
and
for
then
Jeff Daniels and Harry's.
and
Jeff Daniel
Harry's.
as Harry.
Yes, you're so right. A great year for Jeff Daniels, a great year for Harry's, and a great year for Daniels playing Harry's multiple times, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
From one Harry to the next. I gotta, you know what? I pretty soon I'll do a side-by-side post of two Harrys make a right on Instagram. Look out for that. But yeah, he plays Harry in this one. And then 6 months later, Harry in Dumb and Dumber, which Katie and I have talked about. He was definitely on the rise. He had done Arachnophobia, terrifying, The Butcher's
Great.
Wife, Gettysburg. So he was known for obviously
Mhm.
being like a good, serious actor. And I love him. I forgot how much I love him in this movie. He is such a good
Mhm.
supporting character, And when he dies later on,
Oh my
oh
god, I
man,
know.
right?
It's
It's
so
sick.
sad.
It's
Well, did
so
you know in the
demented.
original, speaking how much like
Yeah.
people loved him in the original script, like Harry was gonna end up being the bomber, like as a twist.
Oh, I didn't
And
hear
they were
that.
thinking of having like
Whoa.
Ed Harris play him, and he'd be actually,
Oh.
this is, hearsay, but it could be like one of those like, well, thought of it, and then they were like, nah, we changed it because they were like, I don't think the audience is gonna go for like that, twist like that.
Yeah,
Like
that's
so
pretty
they
dark.
changed it. But yeah, right.
Yeah,
And especially Jeff Daniels playing like, no, he's so lovable.
I
Like,
know. And he's
yeah,
such a good guy in this movie. Oh man,
I
he works so
know.
hard
I
and
remember actually, I remember first seeing this movie and that scene and his face, like when he realizes, and I'm like, oh
yes.
no, I was like 7, and I'm like, no, Harry, no. Actually,
Uh-huh.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right? I
Like,
know. It's like, oh shit. And
oh,
then
oh,
yeah, it's very
oh.
like, it makes me think of Silence of the Lambs, like how
Mhm.
there's that moment later on in the film towards the big climax where like they're at the wrong house and they realize it's kind of giving
Yes.
me that where they're like,
Yes.
they're in the right house. They found what's his name? Payne. They found Payne's house.
Howard Payne's house.
Howard
Yeah.
Payne, but right
Yeah.
place, wrong time, right? But I'm
Mhm.
so glad you bring that up because you might have seen I shared a video on my Instagram. He
I
was
saw
on a
that.
show
Yeah.
recently, right? Talking about how in one version of the script, when he first got it, he was supposed to die in the beginning. He dies in the elevator shaft, which
Mhm.
I could totally
Mhm.
see. I could totally, and I almost, when I was rewatching, because it had been a while, I was like, wait, yeah, when does he die? Does he die? Because I knew he died, but I'm like, does he die saving these people? No, they string him
Mm-mm.
along, right? So he was originally going to die then, and he had passed. He said, "Oh, okay, it's not enough
Yeah.
for me to really, But then there was a rewrite, and he talks about doing that scene. So yeah, love him. So good
Mhm.
in this movie.
Mhm.
So those are our lead actors for this great movie. We of course have many other awesome actors in supporting roles like Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller
Oh,
and
I love his
Succession.
character.
He's new to LA. Oh my God, he's
I
so
love his
annoying,
character. Yeah,
right?
hilarious.
He's so funny, and I love how right when we meet Annie, which by the way, I love that Annie is running late and chasing after the bus. Can I tell you, Katie, how many times
Yep.
living in New York, I was doing that same thing? I was like,
Yep.
I'm pulling an Annie. Almost every morning I was running to the train, running to the bus, missing it, sweating, showing up to work sweaty, like always late. Oh my God.
Yeah, you
But
felt that.
I love when she meets him and he's like talking her ear off and she just goes, "Ugh, there's gum."
That's ad lib too. I love how she says it, gum on my
Gum.
ticket
And
thing.
she like
Like her,
sticks it in his
she
face.
ad
Yeah.
libbed that. That was not in the
Love it.
script. Yeah. So I'm like,
Genius.
I love her. Yeah.
I
That's
love her
such a
so
great
much.
little
Yep.
scene.
So good.
Yeah.
I love it. But we have him. We have Beth Grant, who then was in Donnie Darko, Sparkle
hmm
Motion. She's the lady who
She's such a
unfortunately
good
dies.
actress.
She
I
is so
know.
good.
She is
She's
like
always
perfect.
she's like perfectly
Yeah.
like always like stressed. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Perfect stress face, constant stress face. Like
it's
she just
that
has that
jaw.
look. Yeah,
She's
it's the
always kind of like,
jaw.
like sticking it out
Yeah.
like, oh, I
Yeah.
hate when I hate when she dies. I mean, it's sad. It's so
It's
twisted. And
it's
again,
so stressful.
it's
Ugh.
so stressful because you're like, you shouldn't do that. You have been hearing these conversations. You know by now
Yes,
that you can't be doing that. He's
I
watching.
know.
And then when Annie's crying, she's already crying and stressed over all the people she's about to hit. And then the bus driver, what's his name?
Sam,
Sam. Oh
Sam,
my God.
yeah.
And then this lady, I forget her name. It might be Helen, which is funny because then Jamie Lee Curtis is
Um,
Helen.
I
But
think it is Helen. I think, yeah,
I
yeah,
think it
it's
might
Helen.
be.
Yeah.
But then when she like blows up right there on the step, it's so twisted. And I'm just like, you
And
had to
she like
do
gets
that.
under the bus and it's like
Yes.
like, oh
Uh-huh.
God.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Pop quiz, hot shot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do? What do you do?
I'm just gonna put this out in the universe. If there is a speed 3 on whatever transportation they're gonna do, please, I would love to be one of the passengers. I want like
Me
2
too.
lines. I don't need much, and I just want to be there for the whole shoot, basically. They were
I
working for
know.
at least like probably a month or 3 months.
Yeah, at
And
least.
I just want to be panicked and sweaty and like, like I love the Asian woman. I love Ortiz, but I love how Jack calls him Gigant.
Gigantor was
I'm like,
hilarious. Yeah.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
You know, but all those actors are just, there's the old the old
The cute
couple.
old couple. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that could be us. We could be by the time they meet
Let's
this
do it. Oh my God, let's
old
do it.
couple.
Seriously. Please.
And we just
I'll
look
do it.
like shocked the whole time. Oh, I'm in.
Uh-huh.
I'm in. Because
I
I
know.
can't act, but I can be an extra and act
Oh,
scared.
yeah. I feel like going back to the elevator real quick, I just have to say, like, I
Wait,
even wrote my notes.
I have
I'm
something to
like,
say about the elevator too that I caught.
oh,
You go first
yeah.
because we might have
Okay,
caught
I'll
the
just
same
quickly
thing.
say, speaking of like extras in peril, of course we talked about the one lady who like is too scared to get out, but they yank her out just of course as it drops. And then I love how when she runs away, she says, "Oh, my shoe."
I saw that too. Okay, yes, I actually wrote that down. I'm like, funny catch during the elevator scene. So I actually watched it with subtitles because my parents were just here.
Yep.
So I was like, I was too lazy to figure out how to take them off.
Yeah. I watch
But
it
I
with
caught
subtitles too.
extra things with that.
Hmm.
So that was when like, oh my shoe, and I wonder if that's like something that she like ad libbed in a sense, like they were running and she's like, oh shit, my shoe, and they kept it in
Right.
there because it's like kind of
Yeah.
funny. And
Yeah.
there's another extra scene at the very end. I know we're skipping around. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. No,
When
that's fine.
they're after the very end, when they crash through the thing on the subway bus and they're
Yeah.
kissing, and the extras are, and one of the extras goes, "It's so romantic."
I wrote that down too. I'm like, this extra is so happy.
This extra is extra. She is very
She,
happy. Very.
she is a romance fan. She's like, I have no idea what chaos just happened, but I am so happy to see this man and woman kiss.
This thing just crashed through a wall. People probably died, but like it's romantic at least. Like I
I know.
caught
I
little
caught
things.
that
It was just
too.
funny.
I
Little
love
things that you
it.
catch.
Tell me again, Harry, why did I take this job?
Come on, 30 more years of this, you get a tiny pension and a cheap gold watch.
Cool.
So we talked about Jan de Bont being the director. Quentin Tarantino was actually offered a chance to direct, but he turned it down. So I think that was interesting, as was John McTiernan, who directed Die Hard. He was offered,
Makes a lot
but
of
he
sense.
turned it down. Michael
Okay.
Bay really wanted to direct this movie, but
Mm.
they turned him down because he had only done at the time
Maybe music
commercials and some
videos?
music
Yeah.
videos. Yeah.
Hmm.
So they didn't feel he had enough feature film experience. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that was interesting because
That
now
is
they're like,
interesting.
well, Tarantino was a big name then, as was John McTiernan, but Michael Bay. I love seeing like now he's
Yeah.
a big time director. So he really wanted to direct this movie, and I get it because that's up his alley. Like
Totally.
it's an action movie, yeah. So I totally get that. So, and Keanu Reeves did about 90% of his stunts, so
That is
which makes
incredible because you know
sense.
what?
Mhm.
When I was watching, I was like, I feel like a lot of this is Keanu.
Is him.
Whereas when we go to True Lies in a few minutes, those shots, those are
Yeah.
completely different stunt actors. Like they don't even try to hide. I'm like, okay, that is so not Jamie Lee or Arnold
Yeah.
right now,
First of all, that's a black man for Jamie Lee. Like, what? Like,
Like they're not even the
like this
same body
baseball
type.
scene where like the extras or the stand-ins.
He's the only solution.
We just got a ransom demand from your terrorist. Says he's rigged the city bus. Where's Jack?
Where do you think?
Stay on or get off.
Get off!
So Jan de Bont liked Sandra Bullock. He cast her. He, and the executives at Fox were like, no, we need a bigger name. But he really fought for Sandra Bullock to be in the movie. So
I'm glad.
he ended up winning. Right? I'm so glad. She's so perfect because they, wanted a bigger name. They had offered it to like Alyssa Milano, Kim Basinger, Meryl Streep.
Really?
Halle Berry was
Wow.
offered. They all turned it down. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay. I can picture a lot of them, but Alyssa Milano is sort of
Alyssa
surprising. I mean,
Milano,
I
Meryl
know she
Streep
was
would have
like a
been
TV
interesting.
star.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
could totally see Halle Berry killing that, especially at that
yeah.
time. That makes perfect sense. And Kim
So
Basinger,
yeah,
yep. But
Basinger, yeah, for sure,
wow.
definitely. So
Yeah.
very interesting. I always love seeing like what it could have been,
Yes. Uh-huh.
And the other thing I found funny, and I actually thought before looking up the fun facts, I actually thought of this watching, and I was like, 15 miles an hour is pretty fast. I'd be more reasonable to do like 10 or 20 miles an hour. The original script actually had it at 20 miles an hour, or it would like to not
Oh.
go over. And I was like, well, that would have been a really boring movie because it would have been like,
Yeah.
all right, we gotta keep going. In fact, you're getting honked at because you're going so slow. I guess
Yeah.
I gotta turn here, and it's just like check it.
Everybody hold on!
Little James Cameron connection to this
Ooh.
movie because Joe Morton plays Mac, and
Yes.
he's also in Terminator 2.
Which we've
So
discussed exactly, and he's
yes,
iconic
and
in Terminator 2.
originally,
Yes.
yeah, and originally Greg T. Nelson was gonna play Mac, which I could totally see. But he was busy filming Coach,
Oh.
the show, so he
Yep.
wasn't able to do it. So James Cameron
Uh-huh.
actually recommended to 20th Century Fox, "Hey, I just worked with Joe Morton. He's fantastic. Recommend him." And so he got the role. So thanks to Jimmy
Oh.
Cameron making connections. Yeah.
Jimmy Cam
Yeah.
coming in with the assist. I love
Cam.
that.
Oh, and I also thought this was funny. So Howard Payne's house, that is an actual house. They actually blew it up they paid the owners $5,000 to blow it up, and then they rebuilt it for them. So they paid them and then
Oh,
rebuilt. Can you imagine? And I was thinking, I'm like, would I let them blow up my house for $5,000? Well, nowadays it might be probably more like 15.
right.
But they rebuilt it. So I was like, I might.
Yeah, I
So my
mean,
dad knew that he just built this deck. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, so about that, all the blood sacrifices we made for the deck. So this is
you
a
would just have to
movie.
hand him the check. You'd have to be like, "Dad, here, just take
Go on a
this."
cruise. Go on
Yeah,
a cruise
right?
control, speed 2.
Oh my god.
But
Oh
no,
my god, how funny would that be?
I did think of I was like, "That's really funny."
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, 5,000 does not seem like much, but then
but then
hopefully
they
they
rebuilt
rebuilt
it.
it and they made it even better,
A
more
nicer
modern,
house?
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like in the
hopefully.
ground pool situation, so
Ooh,
we'll
yeah.
see. But yeah, and then of course the famous bus jumping scene that everyone and I remember seeing that for the first time, and I think it was probably my mom or my dad going like, "This just never would happen." Like, and actually, it kinda did because they built a ramp and they had an actual bus and it had actually reached 109 feet over, and
Wow.
it got about 20 feet above the road, and 100 and reached and did 109 feet total, to the point it actually surpassed what they expected and landed on a camera and broke a camera. Oopsie
Oh,
daisies. It probably cost them thousands and thousands of dollars, but whatever. So yeah,
yeah.
so because I was wondering how they did that scene, if they did it with models or because there's
Yeah,
no computer effects,
I was
really.
wondering too. Yeah.
So it was a real bus that they built a ramp and they shoo, and yeah.
Wow.
that like cool? I was like, oh, I love that movie, like movie magic when they actually built shit and it wasn't all
Seriously.
computers.
And both of these movies have amazing movie magic. I mean,
Right?
they
Those
have huge
practical effects.
budgets, but
Yeah,
like
they
all these
do.
explosions and also just all the shots and the choreography of the fighting and the sliding and the I
Mhm.
mean, when Keanu's under the bus, it's just like
Yep, and
it's
he's
just
actually under the
unreal.
bus. He's actually they have him tethered to the under a bus for certain scenes, like probably
Oh
the
my God.
wider shots,
Yeah.
but he's doing like, that's him. That's one of the stunts he was like, "Ooh, I wanna do that." And I'm like, "Oh
Wow.
god."
That is
Yeah.
wild.
The only digital was, the freeway, there wasn't actually a gap, that was digitally taken out, so the little bit of
Okay.
that was what made the scene so expensive because back then, 94, computer,
Yep.
so but again, I was like, "Guys, you didn't finish this fucking road, like,
I
what are you
know.
doing here?"
And you know what's so funny to make these movies another great double feature?
Mm.
There's a moment where there's a gap in the road, in the bridge, in both movies.
It's
Isn't
funny,
that
I
perfect?
I wrote that same thing. Yeah, I did, yeah.
Well, at least in True Lies, they break it themselves. But yeah, in Speed, I'm like, LA, what are you doing with these roads that
Yeah.
go nowhere? Come on now, right?
And it's like a random gap too, they're like, almost like, "All right, who yeah, damn it, Steve, I told you to finish that. Charles, get over here." Like, they're just like yelling at people.
And on that note, before we switch it over to True Lies, I want to just say a couple quotes, and I'm going to throw it over to you if you want to share any
Mhm.
last things for Speed. Okay,
Yep.
some of my favorite lines from this movie, okay? Don't fuck with daddy.
Yeah,
Pa
so
Payne
creepy.
says that with the button. Of course, the iconic pop quiz. What do
I
you
s
do?
I
What do
still
you
use
do?
I use that line, "Pop quiz, hot shot," like,
Yeah,
I'll
pop
use
quiz,
that line every
hotshot.
once in a while.
Yep. What do you do? And it's funny because, like I said, it had been a long time since I've seen this movie in full, like years and years. And so I knew the line, what do you do? What do you do? But
Mhm.
I never really pieced it together, or I forgot that he was hearing Harry and Jack, do
Yes.
that pop quiz, what do you
He
do?
had the
And this sick, twisted maniac is
Mhm.
copying their like game. Oh, dirty, scary. Like that is just like, ugh, gives me the
I know,
heebie-jeebies.
right?
Pop quiz. You have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do? What do you do?
I love when Sandra Bullock is talking to maybe Helen, Beth Grant, and I think Beth Grant is like talking about how great Sam the bus driver is or whatever. Oh, she says like, I don't want to drive. I like someone else driving me. And Annie says, I love my car. I miss my
I miss my
car. I thought
car.
that was
Yeah.
great. After the kids are about to cross the street, but she has to keep going, of course, and they back off,
Oh,
she
this is
screams,
great.
I love this line. Do you want to say it?
Wasn't it like, "Why are they in school?" Or something?
She
Because
goes,
I'll say
"What?"
that.
She goes, "Why
Okay.
aren't they in school? Why aren't you in school?" I love it. I love it. Much like how we're talking about with going back to O.J. Simpson, Payne says, "Interactive TV, Jack, wave of the future," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, yeah,
Right?
so accurate and
So
like crazy."
crazy. The
Love that line.
timing.
Love
Mhm.
that line. Oh, my dad. Okay, so my dad loves movies and loved movies like this. Like I can
Mhm.
hear him being like, "Whoa," or he loved the line, "Do not attempt to grow a brain." He would say he
That's
was like, "Oh my
that is
god, that
a
is good."
dad line. That's a
That is a
dad
dad
line.
line. Oh, this line was a weird one when Ortiz, Gigantor, says, "You're not very bright, man, but you got some big, round, hairy
Hairy
cojones."
cojones. Yeah, and you're like,
I was like,
"Oh,
"Is that a
bleh."
good thing?" When Jack has that epic the finale,
Oh,
pushes
yes.
when he pushes
I
Payne's
had that
head
written down
up
too.
and
"I'm
I forget
smarter,
what
Jack, I'm smarter."
and Jack says,
"Oh, yeah? Well, I'm taller."
it took me a second. I'm like, "Oh, I
Oh,
got it."
really?
Yes. Yes, because I'm like, "But you're lying." I'm like, "Wait, you're lying down?" Because he says it when he's lying. And so I'm like, "Wait, you're taller?" And it's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, 'cause he doesn't have a
Like, "Oh,
head.
got it.
Got
Okay."
it, got it, got it,
It's
got
like
it, got it.
basically he should have said,
Oh my
"Well, yeah,
god.
well, I still have a head." Like,
That would not been Joss Whedon. He would have never written that
no.
line in the very beginning when they're all sitting around, or they're sitting around. They're standing around figuring out what they're gonna do with this
Yeah.
elevator. And the one guy's like, "Anything else that can stop the elevator?" And Keanu goes, "Yeah, the basement."
Yeah.
It's such
That
a
is a good
dick
one.
line. Like
Uh-huh.
that's one of his first lines. I was like, okay, we're kind of introducing him as like rookie, cocky, new
Yep.
cop, like hot shot,
Yep.
kind of That line, it's
There's
a
some
great line.
great 90s sarcasm in this throughout the
Great
whole
90s.
thing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that was, like, a certain era where so many lines, so many, like, ways for characters to speak to each other was, like,
Mhm.
kinda like yeah, like, kinda dick, but funny
But funny.
sarcasm, right?
Yeah. And this is a line I actually use to this day here and there. Whenever like I'm being crazy or something, I'll be like, oh, the whim of a madman. Like, I love that.
Yes, I'm so glad you
The way
brought that
I
up.
already messed it up. I can't do it like that as Harper. The whim
Do
of
it
a madman. I already messed it up again because I'm laughing too much. But I
do it
love
here.
that line.
Take a breath and do it one more time.
Okay. Because they were like the news reporters, like at the whim of a madman, and Dennis Hopper's like, "Ha, the whim of a madman," and he's like, "I like that." Like, I
Yes.
there a little bit better there. But yeah, I like that
So
line. It's
good.
just the way he delivers it is just so great. So I'll
Oh,
say
yeah.
that I to this day I'll say that here and there when I'm
Yeah,
being like crazy or something crazy's happening. Um,
totally.
and
It's
then
such
a
a good
couple
one.
more. I love when Jack is going under the bus to look at the bomb for the first time. And Stevens, Alan Ruck's character's on the phone with Harry,
Oh, yes. I'm
relaying
glad
the
you're
messages.
mhm.
and Jack's like, oh, he's like, fuck me. And then Alan Ruck's like, oh darn.
Oh, darn.
It's
So
so good.
it
It's
was so
so
cute.
good.
Yeah, I love his
Uh-huh.
character. So
That
good.
moment, Wildcat, when Jack realizes it, and then
Look,
that
wait a
creates the
minute.
loop, which I'm like, "Whoa, they are
Mhm.
so smart to come
They're
up with
so
this loop."
smart.
I'm like,
They're way
I
smarter than
still don't
me.
really understand it. Like, wait, so the news camera and I just love how
They
Joe
can
Morton's,
patch
like,
through.
screaming at the guy, but he's patching it through and like, "Run it!" You know?
Run it now! Like he's just yelling like, I'm doing it, Jesus.
Yeah, I love how the
Relax.
cameraman fires back. He's like, "I'm doing it," you know, like, whatever he says. I'm like, "Whoa." Yeah, like,
Yeah.
everyone stay
Everyone
calm,
calm down.
you know?
Everyone
But,
take a breath.
yeah, that loop is so brilliant.
Speed. Get ready for rush hour.
Hey listeners, don't forget to leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app or a thumbs up on YouTube if you're enjoying this episode. Listen, it's not just Katie and me who love these two movies. Here are messages from other friends of mine and big fans. O.T. Garcia, Jeff Bagayski, and Jackie Rene is back to give some love to another July 1994 movie that I like as well, The Client. Here they are.
Hey, Mark. I can't believe you guys are talking about Speed. It was one of my favorite movies growing up, like a staple of my childhood. I fell in love with Sandra Bullock in this movie. And Keanu Reeves is just so hot. I can't even handle it. Uh, Probably my favorite line of the movie is Pop Quiz Hot Shot. I mean, I said that like 1,000 times as a kid. It was crazy. Um, and then to see Jeff Daniels in this movie and then 6 months later in Dumb and Dumber was so wild. I couldn't even believe it was him. Another movie of my childhood is True Lies. Like, seriously, I loved this movie growing up. I couldn't get over how funny Tom Arnold was. He has such a small role, but the line where he talks about his ex-wife, where he's like, what kind of sick bitch takes the ice cube trays out of the freezer? Every time I hear that, I just die laughing. That movie is just so action-packed. Both of these movies are just amazing. So excited. Can't wait to hear the episode. All right. Love you. Bye.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, True Lies. One of my favorite movies as a kid. Definitely was in the movie theater, saw it with my family. To this day, I still, me and my old work husband, we quote the hotel room scene. It is so funny. Do it slowly. It's such a good movie, such a good scene. And of course, the limo scene over the water. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And I think I loved Jamie Lee Curtis in this before I had probably seen Halloween. So this was just the beginning for me. Love this movie.
Hey, Mark. Oh my God, The Client is such a favorite. I saw The Client on like TNT in the middle of the day. And it's funny to look back and realize I watched so many of these crime thrillers that way because that's just what was on when we were home during summer break. I was way too young to deal with the heavy themes presented, let alone understand the law, but I was already in love with Brad Renfro after seeing Tom and Huck. Besides, that same summer, I watched Body of Evidence with Madonna. So this was relatively tame in comparison. But yeah, Susan Sarandon is gorgeous, sympathetic, and tough as lawyer Reggie Love. Plus, she has amazing style in this movie. Mary Louise Parker is such a good actress. I honestly believe for years she was some sort of backwoods hillbilly. And Tommy Lee Jones has that charismatic antagonism that I loved in Double Jeopardy and The Fugitive. But outside of them, and Anthony LaPaglia's bronzed oiled chest in his green alligator suit, it's all about Brad. He was Mark Sway, just a poor kid living in a trailer park before Joel Schumacher plucked him out of obscurity. There was always an emotional depth to all of his performances, this one included, and I guess I have a type, because he just reminded me so much of James Dean, another tragic figure who I was desperately in love with for most of my adolescence. This movie really still holds up upon rewatching. The stakes are high and stressful. It's just bittersweet knowing we never really got to see Brad Renfro's career flourish the way it should have.
From James Cameron, director of Aliens and T2.
1 month later, on July 15th, 1994, everybody, another massive, big budget action movie with big stars, big director, True Lies, came out in theaters across the country. So I'll set the scene again. It's basically the same time period, but I'll just shout out a few other things that had happened between June 10th and July 15th. Going back to OJ, he had by this time officially been charged with Nicole's murder. So all that was happening. And I thought this was wild. Amazon.com had just been founded on July 5th, 94 by Jeff Bezos. Isn't that wild?
Isn't that wild? So 30 years. Wow.
30 years. Of course, it wasn't even yet a thing. I remember, I was ordering stuff on Amazon, but probably not until late 90s. It was definitely probably close to like
least.
4 or 5 years later. It
all
was later
books.
on.
Books
Well,
only.
yeah, it was booked for a long time.
For
Exactly.
a
And then I
long time,
started getting DVDs and I was like, ooh, and that was a little shopping addiction as a teen. Whoops, a lot of DVDs. Thanks, Dad.
Oopsies.
And then popular movies that came out around this time. Angels in the Outfield came out the same day as True Lies. Thought that was fun with little Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I love that movie.
Forrest Gump
I saw that in the
just
theaters.
come out. It's funny. I can't remember. I feel like I did too.
I remember seeing in the theaters.
So-
Great soundtrack. It was such a good movie. I remember
Yeah.
even at
And a
7,
lot
I
of
was
it went
like,
over
this
my
is a
head.
really good movie. Yes.
Oh yeah.
A lot of
Mhm.
it went over my head.
Yeah.
But
But
I
it was
remember
like a
being like,
true
this is really good.
epic, really good. Yeah,
Mhm.
like even at that age, we could tell like, whoa, this is a really great story. So yeah, that was a huge
Yeah.
movie. Perhaps just as huge, maybe even bigger. The Lion King had just come out.
Oh, yep.
Massive, and that I know I
Saw
saw
that.
in theaters because I got chills during Circle of Life when it was like Circle of Life, boom, when the title, I was like, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So that was The Lion King. You probably saw that in theaters too,
I
right?
did,
assume.
yeah. I think I saw
right?
it with I'm
Yeah, who
trying
do you
to
think you
remember
saw
if I
it with?
I don't know. I was 7. So, I probably saw it with like my babysitter or something and maybe some
Mm,
friends. Like, definitely saw it in the theaters for sure.
yes. So that was a big one. And then other movies that are maybe a little more under the radar, but I love them so much, and maybe you do too. Do you remember The Shadow with Alec Baldwin?
Oh, that's actually so yes, that's a good
That had
movie,
just
but
come out.
I
Mhm.
haven't seen it in probably 25 years.
Oh yeah,
But I do
years
remember
and years.
liking it. Yes.
Yes, it was like a true noir comic book movie,
Yes.
kind of violent, a little like spooky. It was like definitely
Yeah.
kind of dark, but super fun. That was out, and a movie I love, everybody. A movie that maybe is a guilty pleasure because I feel like some people don't like it, but do you remember Wolf with Jack Nicholson and Michelle
I
Pfeiffer?
love Wolf.
I love
So
Wolf, and
it's
I
so
loved it as
funny.
a kid, even though it's like so
Yeah.
adult. Loved,
Yeah. I
loved.
watched it like on HBO all the time,
Uh-huh. Yep.
and and I just remember like certain lines and it's a
Mhm.
good one.
Oh
It got a
yeah.
lot of flack, which I understand. Like
Yeah.
but I
It's
liked it.
it's tough to sort of do like a grown-up modern day werewolf movie with Jack Nicholson, directed by Mike Nichols. Like we're like getting like
Oh, okay.
Oscar-winning people
Yeah.
doing this. Like it was a bold move. So some
Mhm.
people I know make fun of it, but I have always loved. And
Yeah.
like Michelle Pfeiffer, oh my gosh,
Oh, she's stunning. Yeah.
just amazing. Yeah. So those were popular movies at this time. In comes True Lies, which of course was number one, much like Speed, its opening weekend. So Katie, I know this story is maybe not as easy to tell because this is a little complicated.
It is.
So
I wrote things down to
I'll
help
give
me
you,
out because it is.
because in the middle of the movie when I was rewatching it, Greg actually has never seen it. So
Really? Okay.
he's like, and I was right at the part where Jamie Lee Curtis is really getting involved, the wife, Helen. So he's like, oh, wait, what's going on? Is she like a spy? I'm like, okay, let me tell you everything that's happened. And
Was he
actually,
not
this will be
paying
a good.
attention? Did he pull a Tish Bruno,
Well,
my mom, where he
no,
walked into the middle of the movie and go, wait, what's happening?
exactly. He pulled a Tish. Exactly. Yeah. He wasn't watching at all. He just came in and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, this is actually going to be great practice for the podcast. So this, and I realized like for 5 minutes, I was still talking. I'm like, so then this happens. So anyway, long story short, Katie's going to tell us, for anyone out there who has never, seen or heard about True Lies, do your best in 30 seconds
All right.
and
30
go.
seconds. Oh, God. We're here until like tomorrow morning. Okay. So it centers around a super spy, James Bond type of character named Harry Tasker. And he's leading a double life. On the one hand, he is a super spy, secret agent, government agent, doing missions and killing people and breaking necks and all that shit. And then the other hand, his other life, he
Yeah.
is a family man with a wife and daughter. He is a dull computer salesman, who happens to be very muscular. I always love, sorry, sidebar, when he plays like characters that are like in, like this movie where I've met computer salesmen. They're not built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Like he just happens to be
Yeah, I know. It's so
ginormous.
funny.
But anyway.
How'd it go at the convention, honey?
You were the big hit of the show. It's fantastic. I love the computer business.
So suspend reality.
Yeah.
A lot of this movie is suspend reality. So anyway,
Yeah.
so he currently what he is working on is chasing down kind of extreme terrorists who are trying to steal nuclear weapons. And, so they're on that kind of mission, and him and his partner, Tom Arnold, are kind of working on this. And during this time, he discovers his wife might be having an affair. So then he kind of shifts his focus and he's like, all right, what's happening here? Kind of discovers she's having an affair with a quote unquote affair. We'll find out it's not really that true. But he's a used car salesman, played brilliantly by Bill Paxton, who I love. R.I.P. Love him.
Oh my, I know. What
so
a guy.
Perfect. Yeah. He's such a perfect douchebag. I love it. And he's like, and I heard he was like the nicest person ever. But anyway, so he finds that out. And so he devises a scheme to kidnap them, and I'm just sitting there like, this is so illegal. Like, oh my God, can you imagine like this happening? Like, and even Tom Arnold's like, this is like breaking every law. And he's like, So anyway, so they kidnap them both. They bring him in, they interrogate, he interrogates his own wife, Helen, and find out, no, she's not actually having an affair. She just wanted a little excitement because he's never home, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna, give you some adventure, So he devises this like trick, the scheme trick.
It's such a weird trick. I'm like, oh my God, this is so awful that you're like giving her what you want.
I would murder my husband if I found that.
Totally.
So she has this mission. She has to go on to pretend she's a prostitute, to plant this listening device on this suspected arms dealer. It's like this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so we'll talk about the striptease dance.
Oh,
and
we have to.
Harry's the actual is in the room, but in the dark, so she doesn't see. And the terrorists find out where they are, which I'm like, how do they find out where they are? But anyway,
I'm so glad you asked that as well. I'm like, wait, how they just showed up? I'm like,
they just showed up.
Did I miss something?
So okay. Yeah, we might, but so they go in and they grab him, and it's like this like funny because Helen's like, you don't want him, you're after, it's me, you want, it's me, and then Harry's like, like no, like let me handle it. She's like, not me handle it. That's fun. I like that little. Anyway, I've already surpassed 30 seconds, but so anyway, so then they get taken to like the bad guy's lair.
Yes.
In the Keys.
In the Keys, the Florida Keys, going back to Florida. Yep.
Go back to Florida. And anyway, so they kind of team up and a lot of gunshots and explosions and neck breaking and all that jazz happens. They foil their plot, and then they save the day, and then they end up in this building and explosions, and they save the daughter, and then the bad guys Dad, you're fired, and then he dies, and then yay America, and everything's okay.
Yep,
The
exactly.
end.
Oh my gosh, that was a good explanation. There's a lot going
I
on, and you did
tried.
a good job with
There's a
that.
lot.
Yeah. I'm glad in your explanation you included "you're fired"
You're
because I feel like
fired.
that's
My
pretty
best
pivotal to
Arnold.
put in there.
For 15 years, Harry Tasker's been leading a double life.
Mr. President, one of our best men is inside.
Transmitting now.
Right on time.
I feel like, considering James Cameron just came from directing T2, which is a
Yeah.
very serious movie, this is him having more fun. And I feel like you can
Definitely, which we
feel
don't see him do too much.
No, exactly. I think this, and he'd even said, like, he wrote a lot of the script, and he wanted to try his hand at comedy a little more, because all his movies, especially like Terminator's, very serious, very dark, very, gritty. This one is much lighter, much more fun. There's violence, but it's like comic booky kind of violence in a sense. It's so ridiculous. Which I kind of love about it. It truly is, I think, like him just having a good time. Like, he's like, this is the
totally.
James Bond movie I always wanted to make, and here we go. And so
Honestly,
that's what
yeah,
love it.
rewatching it made me think of very Mission Impossible, especially
Yes.
the whole opening sequence in what is it, Switzerland? Very
Yeah.
Mission Impossible. And then
Yep.
it's very like kind of Mr. and Mrs. Smith with the whole married life, And then oh gosh, what else was I thinking? Then it was something else, but now I
Well,
just
James
forgot.
Bond for sure.
James Bond.
Yeah, the opening scene
and
is
and
James
she
Bond.
even says it. It also makes me think of like Rambo with all the
Rambo.
shooting
I'm
and
married to Rambo.
I'm married to Rambo. Yes, exactly. So, it's got some good DNA from some other kinds of stories to make one big crazy movie,
Now, they're about to collide.
What's your exit strategy?
I'm gonna walk right out of that front gate.
May I see your invitation, please?
Sure. Here's my invitation.
Yeah, that worked good. Right out the old front gate.
Can you lean back a second?
Written and directed by James Cameron, who has done so many movies. Katie, this is now your third Cameron movie on the podcast with me, I think?
So,
T2.
T2.
And Titanic.
Titanic, yeah. And
yes.
I'm already saying I want to do Aliens.
Okay, great. Well, you'll come on back because that'll be, I think that was 86, if I remember. So a couple more years, and that'll be
I know.
40th anniversary.
I think
Absolutely.
Jackie's like, you need to do Aliens because you're on this James Cameron kick. I'm like, all right.
Let's do it. Yeah, for sure. But so he, like Katie said, right before this was T2 for him. And then before that was The Abyss. Yep, exactly. But this is based on a French film that you probably saw this in your notes, La Totale. It's called.
Jackpot also?
I guess the American title was called Jackpot from the early 90s. So James Cameron saw this movie and I was looking that up. It's pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah,
a little bit shorter. So, not as much crazy action because James Cameron is like the action king. But
to go
pretty much
on everything.
Beat by beat. There's even Simon, Bill Paxton's great character that you mentioned. So pretty much all the main core things are from this movie that James Cameron was inspired by. So that's where he got the idea. Now on to our lead actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't even say that right. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, his last movies were Last Action Hero, T2, like we said, Kindergarten Cop, and Total Recall. So, of course, he was on top of the world. He was like a true movie star. I mean, still is, but I mean, very in demand. I mean, Arnold was he's fully on the poster for the original poster for the movie. His face is taking over the whole thing with a gun, right? So he is our leading man, leading lady, Jamie Lee Curtis, in one of her most fun roles. And I feel like a role that I actually feel like people don't talk about enough because I think she is so perfect in this role. Do you agree?
I do. Yeah. And actually, James Cameron, envisioned her in this movie. Like he kind of wrote the role for her. Because she was in Blue Steel, which was directed by Catherine Bigelow, his ex. And so he had seen her in that. And she's like, she's in A Fish Called Wanda, which is fabulous. And she's funny in that. So he loved her. Like, she's funny, but she can be like badass. Because in Blue Steel's very gritty. Yeah. So he had really wanted her in this role. And Arnold Schwarzenegger did not.
That's great.
He did not envision. Wow. He did not envision Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah, so he did not envision Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie. He wanted, somebody. He just, I don't know. But then James Cameron's like, he auditioned all these other people, and it just wasn't working out. And James Cameron was like, "Do you trust me?" And Arnold's like, "Yes." So we put Jamie in, and at the end, Arnold was like, I should have trusted you. I'm glad I trusted you.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, to the point that she got top billing with him too.
Interesting. That's so interesting.
It was going to be him, and then True Lies, and then Jamie Lee Curtis, and then afterwards, James Cameron's like, you know what? This is really a couples movie. This is really like about like a couple's marriage. And he's like, so he asked Arnold, like, hey, can I put Jamie's name after your, like, before, you know, as top billing before the name of the movie? And he said, absolutely. Arnold said, without hesitation, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Well, honestly, because she's working her ass off. She's got such a fun change. Like for me, like obviously he's so memorable in this movie, but my favorite moments and like I feel like the most iconic visuals are they involve her, you know, like in the black dress, you know, screaming her head off, you know. So like yeah, it's pretty impressive what they're both doing. And I mean, she also was already obviously a megastar with Halloween and like you said, Blue Steel. I mean, she had already done so many things. So, and speaking of what she had done leading up to True Lies, My Girl 2, My Girl 1 and 2. I talked about the first one, but My Girl 2 came out earlier in 94. So she had just done that. She had done a movie that I really want to see. I've never seen it, but the poster is in the video store in the original Scream. It's called Mother's Boys. Have you ever seen Mother's Boys?
I haven't, but I know exactly the movie. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know the plot, but I know exactly the movie you're talking about. Yeah.
It's a thriller. She's got blonde hair. She's like smoking. She's like the bad mom that wants money or sex or something bad and you
I
know,
don't know.
scary. I don't know.
There's a mother and
But
there's boys
Mother's
involved.
Boys, she was in that. And then she had also done Forever Young with Mel
I
Gibson
love that
and I think
movie.
Elijah Wood.
Yes,
Yeah.
Elijah
right?
Wood. Love that
so
movie.
good.
Mr. Tasker's office. Hi, it's Helen. Is he in? Harry's in a sales meeting, Mrs. Tasker.
And then, of course, like we were saying, we have some amazing supporting actors that are really, really equally memorable. Tom Arnold kills me in this movie. He is so friggin' funny.
He's so
He's
great.
in this. He had just recently divorced Roseanne in the years prior, and that joke with the ice cube trays,
I saw
I
that.
guess, is a
I wrote
nod.
that
Did you
down
see
too.
that?
Yeah,
Yes,
apparently
he
he had
says,
said that. That's one of my favorite lines that I always remember from the movie. Like, what kind of
Yes.
sick bitch takes the ice cubes out of the freezer? That was something Arnold Schwarzenegger said to James Cameron after Tom Arnold had told him, allegedly, don't come after me, Roseanne. But and so James Cameron loved the line, so we put it in the movie.
It's genius. Oh my gosh,
And
yeah.
it's
So
funny,
I
like
guess
Tom.
Roseanne did that.
Yeah,
Whoops.
I don't know, I guess, like, allegedly,
Apparently.
Roseanne, allegedly.
Yeah.
And Tom Arnold actually went into the audition didn't think he was gonna get the role. He just really wanted to meet James Cameron, but he was like, let's go for it. And so him and Arnold did scenes together, and James Cameron's like, they have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
So and
He is a scene stealer.
He's a scene stealer. He's quick. He's witty. Very funny. 20th Century Fox did not want him in the movie because of all the drama with Rose. They thought it would be bad publicity.
Okay. Yeah.
For the movie. But
looking back, it is kind of surprising that he has such a big role because, you know, he didn't really have many major roles in movies after this, you know. So it's, you know, it is interesting. It's a little bit of a risk. So I do understand.
It is,
but
but it worked out.
Can't imagine it without him.
Yeah, James Cameron actually backed him so much he threatened to make the movie with a different studio if they didn't agree. That's how much clout he had, but he had just done those huge movies. So
yes,
the studio was like, "Oh shit, okay, fine, he's in." So yeah.
And then last but not least, I'll just leave it with Bill Paxton. Like you were saying, what another scene stealer. I love his hair. I know it's supposed to look a little
so
like
douchey. Yeah.
It's douchey, but it looks so good on him, and he's so much fun. And he's not in it for very long, but the minutes he's in it, wow. I mean, honestly, like, where is his best supporting Oscar? You know, because like that was just so much fun what he was doing. He was such a jerk. Although I have to bring up a very crazy line that I need to know why that was even in there. He says when he's raving about Helen to Harry. He's talking about her body.
Exactly what you're gonna
you
say.
know what I'm gonna say, and I'm
know.
only gonna say it once because I don't want the feds coming for me. Okay. He says he's raving about her body, you know, tits and ass and all this. And he says, ass like a 10-year-old boy. And then that's when Arnold punches him in his sort of fantasy, right?
Yeah.
It's not real. But I'm sorry, what?
Right? I
Excuse
also
me?
was like, "Wait," upon rewatch, I was like, "I forgot
Yeah.
about that line."
Ask like a 10-year-old boy. I'm
I
like,
have questions. I've got
yeah,
questions.
there are major questions. So just have to shout out that very bizarre line. That's probably the most bizarre line in the whole movie. Um,
Mhm.
so we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, he is great. And we have even more stars. Tia Carrere is so much fun as
Mhm.
Juno, the bad girl.
Love
We
it.
got lots of good people. Charlton
Mhm.
Heston, completely forgot he is in
Me
this as their
too.
boss.
And
Totally
it's so
forgot.
funny. I wrote down when I saw him, I'm like, "Oh, I love him with the eye patch, giving off Nick Fury vibes,
Mm.
with the Avengers." And then as I was doing my fun facts, I found out they based the character off of Nick Fury.
Oh my
So
gosh, how
yeah,
funny.
I know. I wrote
Wow.
that down, and then because in the comics, Nick Fury is white, and he has that similar hair and the
Oh,
eye patch.
wow.
So it's funny. Yeah, I literally wrote that note down. And then as I'm sifting through fun facts, I'm like, oh shit, they actually did base the manner, like certain mannerisms,
Yeah.
and yeah. So
Oh, that is
yeah,
such interesting
I
trivia.
was
So I
like,
guess
oh,
Cameron's a Marvel fan. All right, interesting.
guessing. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
So
How funny. Okay,
mhm.
cool.
Maybe it's just that you're not in touch with your feminine side.
What were you doing there?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
I feel like you were talking about it earlier in your description. Let's just get right to this moment. The striptease dance.
Yes.
Holy
I
cow.
actually broke my pen watching it because I was like playing with the pen. And went, it's like, I forgot how like, damn girl, get it.
She looks amazing. Now, it's funny because and I'm not, speaking ill. She's a queen, but I looked up her age and she is younger in this than I thought. She was 35 when this came out.
Okay. Yeah.
But her body is banging. It's just she just I guess, but even back in Halloween, she always kind
She's
of
always
had
kind of had an older face,
like an
like
older
young,
face
young, but you know what I mean? Like,
and like a
she's
deeper
beautiful,
voice,
but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I was just sort of thrown by that. Arnold was like 10 years older. He was definitely like mid 40s, I think, or
Okay.
42, early 40s, but he was definitely older than she was.
Yeah.
I guess that was almost a decade if she was 35. But wow, her body, holy cow,
Banging.
that is one of
Yeah.
the sexiest. And I just love even before it, she goes on this mission, like you were saying, which it's so weird. And again, now as an adult
I know
watching this in
watching it,
full,
I'm like,
I'm
oh
like,
my God.
wait a minute, this is so manipulative. This is such a dirty trick. She's opening up to, yeah, not her husband, but to these, like these people that abducted her, saying, "Yeah, I just really want an adventure. I need." She heard the quote. She says something like, "The hourglass, the sand in the hourglass is like slipping through." I'm like, "Girl, you're 35. You're still very much alive,
I know,
But she
Jesus.
wants to do crazy wild things before she dies. And so then he's like, "Okay, so you're gonna have to do this mission or else." And I'm like, "Ooh, this is so twisted,
I
right?"
know, right? Would
And
destroy
then he
your
makes
life.
her
Like,
go on
okay.
this
Mhm.
mission, like you said, as a prostitute. I love the
Mhm.
ripping of the silly
Which was
sleeves.
her idea. I wrote that
Oh,
down too.
was it?
So, yeah, I wrote that down. I love that scene. And I remember watching it with my family, my mom going, "It wouldn't rip that nicely." Like, which is true. Thank you, mother. But I do remember her saying that when we first watched this movie, but that was her idea. Yeah, she kind of pitched it to James Cameron, was like, "Oh, I like the idea of having this dress," and then her just ripping like, I'm freeing myself, like I'm
Yeah.
done being this housewife for right now. And so yeah,
Because,
that was her
you
idea.
bring up a
So
good point. Like she is very much like a meek, housewife where
mhm.
like she wouldn't pass the Bechdel test for the first half, where she's just waiting around for Harry, making his cake. Like she's very much like the wife. So
Mhm.
that scene is really showing us now, and even before, how she's punching,
Well, I was gonna
Harry
say
and
when they were taking them when she was with Simon, and she does
yes,
knee someone, and then like, but so she's starting to show like, all right, you got a little feisty in it. She ain't taking this shit.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And
So
I do
that's
love
that's like
when the guy like hits her on the back of the head, and then Harry turns and punches him.
yes. Uh-huh, I love that. It's so
I
sweet, but
know.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I get it, but, like, don't do that, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's starting this change for her, and her change is really fun to watch because she is sorta like us, the viewer. Like, we're not
Yeah.
spies, we're not action heroes, but
Yep.
how she can become this surprise, in the middle of it all. She's able to actually kinda, like, do pretty well for herself,
Yeah.
But, I just love the ripping of the sleeves. I love the idea to slick back her hair, and it's so
Yes,
sexy. Like, I
it's
feel like
so
that's where
awesome.
Beyonce got that iconic slick back hair look. I'm like, I feel
Yeah.
like she watched True Lies, right?
Stole it from Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah, I
She stole
agree.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
And then she's
and
in
that
there doing this, like, this mission with, like you said, Harry's sitting there. It's so
in the
funny,
dark.
so
It's
brilliant, but
so
still
yeah.
twisted. I'm like,
I know.
"Okay,
It
you're
is.
totally tricking your wife. This is not good, like, at all."
Mhm.
But it's funny, and he's playing the recorder, which is genius, and I feel like very Home
Mhm.
Alone or something,
Yeah,
Home Alone
right?
2
They like
with
that
the
in the
shark
90s,
boy.
like, doing, like,
Yes.
recorder voices.
Right? And she's just, it shows not only her sexiness, but, like, her real comedy chops because then she's trying to, like, act sexy
My
with, like
favorite one is when she does this dance, like, she starts that because that's something I would do, like, dance sexy, I'd be like the for people that can't see,
Yes.
it's like the wheels on the bus thing, and they do do the disco thing, and,
Yes. Uh-huh.
and then it's like, "No, no, no," and she's like, "Oh, yeah," and then she gets into it, yeah,
And
but
then
I love
she
that.
gets into it, and she's
Mhm.
writhing, and I remember first watching that scene because, I think most people remember, like, your first time watching that scene, and
Yeah.
I started getting nervous because I was like, "Oh, wait, like, is this gonna get?" Because I don't know if I was watching it with my family or what, but I just remember, like, being nervous, like, "Oh, is she gonna get naked and they're gonna, like, is this a big sex scene?" Because I feel like that's what we're leading to. Because she's, like, humping the
Mhm.
bedpost,
Mhm.
like, but
Mhm.
we don't it doesn't, of course, get that
Well,
far, but
originally, the
Mm.
striptease, in the original script, she was gonna be stripped naked, but be in the dark. So Jamie Lee
Oh,
Curtis actually suggested, "Hey, why don't I have my underwear on and lingerie and have it in the light and, and then have that different." Yeah, so she
yeah.
kind of rehearsed it in front of James Cameron, which
Okay.
is hilarious to think about.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yeah.
and so they rehearsed it and did not show Arnold Schwarzenegger. So when he drops the recorder, that's that's legit. He actually dropped it. And James
I love
Cameron
that.
loved it and kept it in the movie because it was like a flub, but it was a good flub.
Oh, it's
Um,
iconic.
and
Wow, it's
then
such a funny moment.
her falling down, which is hilarious.
Yes.
Him startling and getting up, that's his real reaction. And so you see him start, and then he sits back down because he's like, "Oh, I'm out of character." Because then she keeps going, and he realizes in that split second, "Oh, we're still acting. Okay,
So he didn't know she was
right."
gonna do
He
that.
did
Oh,
not
that's
know, and
great.
they did it on purpose that way. James Cameron, Jamie Lee Curtis, apparently. So, which
That's
made I was like,
great.
that's brilliant. Yeah. So his
Oh,
reaction is very
makes me love
real.
that scene even more. I
Right.
mean,
Right. I
it's just
know.
so special, and it really is so funny. Again, it's a little twisted, but and then
Yeah.
I love how, he kisses her and now she's beating him up, but still
Yeah.
doesn't know that that's her husband, even though
Yeah.
she's, like, basically
Even though he's
looking
like,
right at him.
he's doing like that. Come on, that's your
Yeah,
like
and then that's
that's
the
Arnold.
big moment where she realizes it's him,
Yeah.
doesn't yet know he's a spy, but
Because
it's
then
like,
the terrorists bust in and get
right.
them. So yeah.
Yes.
But yeah,
Mhm, and
that whole
that
scene was
to me,
yeah.
that's well, I guess Simon is really where the movie for me really starts, but, like, the
Mhm.
movie kicks it up and, like, the True Lies I remember the most is really the second half with
Mhm.
starting with, she's being interrogated behind the glass.
Uh-huh.
Like, from
Yeah.
that moment on, I'm like, "Ooh, this is, like, the most memorable parts for me." The beginning is great and so
Yeah.
impressive. The horse, we'll talk about, like, oh my god, all that, but I just didn't remember most of that stuff. I remembered when, like, Jamie Lee and maybe it's because I'm a horror fan and I had watched Halloween as a kid and I'm like, "Oh, that's her?" I don't know, but, like,
Mhm.
then
Yeah,
all the, like,
that's true.
Rambo stuff in the Keys and with Tia Carrere,
Mhm.
like, I remember all that so well, and it is just nonstop thrills, you know?
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh, so
The
good.
best.
It's not like he's saving the world or anything.
Well, see, this is the problem with terrorists. They're really inconsiderate when it comes to people's schedules. Could you press the button for the top floor, please?
Or the
Yeah.
horse chase scene. The horse chase
Yeah.
scene, the first yeah. And again, I remember watching it with my family and probably my mom again being like, "That horse would never keep up with the with the
Yeah.
motorcycle." And yes, to a certain degree, but if you really watching it though, the guy on the motorcycle has to stop a lot and make turns. So it
Yeah.
does give the horse, and the horse can jump over things better than so a
Mm.
little bit, realistic,
Sorry,
not realistic
Tish.
at all, but
Yeah,
sorry,
I
Tish.
I
But
agree.
yeah, So I love that scene with and I love when they're running and the saxophone guy is playing and he's like do 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 and like he's just so stupid and funny.
So stupid, so
I love
fun.
that whole scene and
That
the
whole
horse in the
sequence is
elevator.
yes, it's wild. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
elevator. And the bad guy, I don't know the actor's name, but his character's I think Aziz. He's such
Yes.
a good bad guy. He looks
Yeah.
so intense. His eyes, he's
His
just
eyes
like
are
the right
so
amount
intense.
of camp,
Mhm,
because it's
mhm.
over the top, it's goofy, but it's still, serious enough where we're like on the edge of our seats, like what's gonna happen.
Right.
What a moment. It gives me chills. It like truly puts a smile on my face is Jamie Lee Curtis holding onto his hand from
Yes,
the
that's like
helicopter.
iconic though. I feel like
It's
icon the
iconic,
yeah,
right?
with the
That
blow
is
everything
like
exploding underneath
you
her
see
and
that in like montages of movie history, like at the
mhm,
Oscars and
mhm.
like in the movie theater, like her screaming this goofy scream, but she's really dangling. There's
Yeah,
water below her.
yeah,
Wow. And Arnold said they got that in one take,
yeah.
that shot of I guess I don't know if that's him holding her. I guess it is.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's I mean if it's not a stunt person, well, I mean it couldn't be a stunt person for her. That's the money shot of seeing her face,
I think I read that she did do a lot of her own stunts, I wanna say.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Impressive.
yeah,
You can
um
tell, in that scene where she's standing in the window of the car,
mhm,
the what do they call that? Like sort of like the skylight, whatever. You can tell on even a lot of the wide shots, it's her. I could because I was
mhm.
looking because we were saying some of the wide shots, you're like, that is definitely not them at all.
Yeah,
But
right.
you could see it was her, like so at least she's doing that. But that shot of like the car going off, much like Speed,
Mhm.
how we were saying the bus
So
going over
good.
but like the car and like the stat, I think that is definitely a stunt woman in that wide shot of like coming out of the
Probably.
car. Wow,
Mhm.
incredible.
So good. So good.
Like movie magic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember have you gone to the Keys? You've driven down the bridge?
I just finally went to Key West in February. We went this year, just a couple months
Mm.
ago. But no, we didn't. We flew directly to Key West, so we didn't.
Oh.
We didn't have a rental car. We haven't driven, but I do want to do that someday because it looks cool.
So I have, and I
Yeah,
remember we drove the bridge, and my dad goes, "That other," because the bridge is still there, the old bridge. It's like that's where they
yeah.
filmed True Lies.
Wow,
So it was cool. I was
that's
like,
so
"Oh,"
cool.
and they did do an 80-foot model of the bridge to do some of the scenes, and
Yep.
then for other, so the bridge already had pieces missing from it, the old bridge.
Mm,
So what they did was they used that. So they would actually filled in the pieces, like built like a bridge to blow it up. So they kind of filled
wow.
in the missing chunks just to blow it up again because it was already, it's probably made out of like plaster, nothing fancy,
Right.
but movie
Yeah.
magic. So they did that,
Wow.
which I thought was really cool. And then the other stuff they did was a 80-foot model of the bridge. So they did some, and then the other one, I thought this was funny. So they had when they did a lot of scenes with the bridge, they had to shut. So there's the old bridge and the new bridge. So the new 7 Mile bridge, they would have to shut the new 7 Mile bridge down for several minutes at a time to film certain things like the planes landing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So they would have to stop past cars and stuff. So they had people go out to the people in the cars and give them like sodas and bumper stickers that said, "I was stopped on the 7 Mile bridge by Omega Sector," which is the
Oh yeah.
sector that, yeah, I was like, I want that
Yes.
bumper sticker. That's cool.
That's so
So
fun. What
yeah,
a good
so they
idea
would
to give them some swag, to make some
little something from the
yeah,
movie. Yeah. But
that's
so
cute.
yeah, so they did film it on the bridge and then other parts was the model. Yes, I thought that was
Smart.
really cool. But I
Yeah,
remember like driving on the bridge and being like, oh, that's where they filmed True Lies. Okay, that's really cool. And there is
that's so
pieces
cool.
missing from the bridge and it's still there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a cool
That's really
drive.
incredible. Yeah, I wanna do it
We're
sometime. I
talking about
liked
going back again, actually, maybe next
Oh,
year.
yeah.
So
Cool.
maybe like my friends
Yeah.
and I. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, if you go, oh my god, you need to recreate the Jamie Lee Curtis. Ah!
Oh, that's safe. But, ah.
I married Rambo.
Oh, and I forgot to
Oh,
mention, we didn't
yeah.
mention other part of the cast. Eliza Dushku is
I
in it.
know, I
I
was just
love
thinking, And how funny, she doesn't have a ton to do as the moody daughter, but I
Yeah.
thought of you because, of course, not only we were about to talk, but I thought of you because when I was rewatching, she's giving me a little bit of like a female John Connor from T2 because she's
Oh,
like
yeah.
moody, right? And she
That's a
gets
good
on her
point.
boyfriend's motorcycle and she's stealing dad's like money or whatever.
That's so true.
Okay, James Cameron, I'm
That is
seeing
very female
that's
John
I
Connor.
think that was like a
And
little nod, right?
the scene where Arnold was wearing the sunglasses at night, the camera
Yes.
glasses, so Terminator. I'm like, "Oh, that's a
Oh,
so that's
yeah.
it. I
Oh my
didn't
gosh,
think
you're
about the John
right.
Connor. Yeah, I didn't think
Yes.
about the John Connor,
Yeah, she just getting me
comparison.
I
That's really
thought of it.
funny.
I had never thought of that
Yeah.
before, but I just was getting some of it, but yeah, little Eliza Dushku, so badass going to Joss Whedon and Buffy, that little
I
connection. But I
know.
love that, like we said, just when you think the movie's done, they got his daughter, which
Which
is
I was
also
like, "Wait, how?"
I
It's
know,
just sort of
like,
like
it is kinda
yeah.
crazy, and even Tom Arnold says, like, "I don't know, they got her somehow." Like, I feel like it's sort of like a joke even to James Cameron that it's like, "Whatever, they found her," you
They
know?
got her, they got her.
They
Well, I
like
mean, he did, Aziz did have Harry's wallet with the
Right.
picture and stuff,
Yes, he
so
pulls the
and
picture out.
and
Mhm.
I was like, "Well, why would he have his wallet when he's on mission?" But he wasn't on a mission, he was there messing with Helen, so
With
he wouldn't
Helen.
have his
That's true.
ID on him because he wasn't there for an official mission, even though it's,
Super
like, super
smart, you're
illegal what
right.
he's doing.
Mm
But I was like, "That kinda checks out." I mean, it's
That
still
that makes
ridiculous.
sense. That's
But
that
yeah, so
tracks.
that
Mhm.
that's kinda what I figured how they found Dana, the
Yeah.
daughter, so,
And then
but
she's on the jet with dad hanging on, and oh my god, what a
yeah,
finale.
so crazy,
Oh
yeah.
my
It's
god.
such a great, like, and that the jets are awesome and just
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, yeah, and then that's
Explosions and
and
it's
they're
just
breaking into the building, and the guy cleaning has no idea until, it's too late. Yeah, wild stuff. It's just, like, so good.
You're fired.
Another moment I wanna just shout out that we haven't talked about yet,
Mhm.
actually 2 quick moments. Again, going back to, like, their lair in the Keys. I love the truth serum bit, that's really fun and also stressful
That's
'cause
a funny line too, like, "Have you ever
yeah.
killed anyone?" "Yeah, but they were all bad."
Yeah, they were all bad, uh-huh.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
Yeah, and before that, she goes, "Are we gonna die?" And he goes, "Yep."
Yep.
Like, Arnold isn't always the best actor, and in this movie, at sometimes there were some lines where I'm like, "Oof."
Yeah.
But then some lines he can do really, really well, and that was
Yeah,
that was a
that
good
was a
moment
good
for him.
one.
But that's fun, but then I love, and I had forgotten, it's just so funny, and it's the kind of moment where, man, I wish I saw this in a theater with a packed crowd because I bet the crowd was laughing when,
Mhm.
shit's going down in the lair and, it's after the truth serum bit, and they're shooting each other and everything, and he gave Helen the
I
gun.
loved it. I wrote the scene down too.
What a fun moment. Like, what a
The
great
gun
moment to be
falling down
where she
and the girl
drops
going like,
it
"Ah!" It's so comical and
and it's
over
slow
the
motion, but
top.
all
Oh,
the bullets are luckily not hitting them, but hitting all the
no.
bad guys, and then he looks at her and she's like, oh, so much fun. So
And
funny.
I did put, like, the bad guys are, like, the worst shots ever. They went to, like,
Ah,
Stormtrooper Academy with, like, how
yes,
bad of shots they are, like, I
especially
knew it's just
earlier
meant to
on
be. Oh my
especially earlier on
god.
with Tom Arnold behind the pole,
With the
and he's, like,
pole.
feeling everything, he feels his crotch, he's like, "Oh, thank god." That's another brilliant I mean, the movie is
It's so
really funny.
It's so
Really
funny,
funny.
and I think it meant to be like, the bad guys are supposed to be awful shots, like, it's
Yeah.
kinda I wonder if James Cameron is kinda making fun of 'cause Star Wars, the stormtroopers are notoriously bad at
Ooh.
aiming and shooting, so I almost wonder if he's kinda making fun of that? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't read
interesting.
anything about it, I'm just putting things,
It's just
because
yeah,
I
a
literally
hunch.
thought of stormtroopers, like, "God, these guys went to, like, Stormtrooper Academy with how bad of shots they are,
That's
because 'cause
so
they're not
funny.
hitting goddamn anything, like, except for, like, poles and chairs and
Yeah,
shit."
and, like, Tom Arnold is not a skinny guy, no offense, but, he's
No,
not the
no.
thinnest, so that was
Oh
so
my
funny. Oh
god.
my god. Yeah.
It's so
Uh-huh.
funny.
True Lies.
I was looking at because I always wondered, why they didn't do like a sequel because they did a sequel to
Mm,
Speed,
yeah.
and I actually read that a sequel was in the works. I don't know if you saw
Mm,
this,
no.
where a script was written, and the idea was going to reunite the main cast with James
Mm.
Cameron as the director, and it was going to be released in 2002.
Oh, wow.
But it was scrapped for a couple of reasons. One was this it had script issues,
Mm.
and the other was right, it was right after 9/11. So the whole
That's tough
terrorism
with
thing, and
terrorism.
James
Yeah.
Cameron had said, like, this day and age, terrorism's not, it wasn't funny then, but it's really not funny now. Like so
Yeah.
kind of scrapped it. And apparently, and I did know this, but I forgot because it was very short lived. There was a series, a True Lies series
It
that
just
came out.
yeah, like a year
It
ago.
popped up. Yeah, yeah,
Did you
exactly. It
check
was
it
a
out
year
at
ago.
all? I
I
wanted to
did
actually
not.
try it, but I know it got canceled, so
It
it
got
must not have
canceled
been
after
all
one
that great.
season. I heard it wasn't
Yeah.
that good.
That would have been
Mhm.
interesting to break up, the time between Titanic and
Titanic.
Avatar with True Lies 2, Truer Lies. Because, yeah,
Truer
it does
Lies.
end I love the ending. I love how they're
It's
Doris and
so
Boris.
good.
It's
Doris and
so
Boris.
cute because
I love
earlier,
the
when they
dance.
call her Doris or no, when they say,
It's
"We'll give you a code
Natasha?
name," Yeah, Boris and Natasha? So
Natasha?
funny.
Yeah, and they're
Doris,
like,
and she's like,
Doris. She's like,
"Hmm."
"Oh." You
And then
can
at
see how
the end
disappointed she is. I love
I
it.
love the light on her eyes, when she answers the
Yes,
phone,
because
"Doris and
now it's
Boris,
like
we're here,"
spy, secret
and now
spy light,
she's
like
in it,
she's in it.
and I
Yeah.
love that for her, again, I'm drawn to her character because it's like, she is kind of the everyman, just doing the normal job, but she's now doing what she wanted and what she's good at, and I love
Mhm.
it. It's so cute,
Right,
and
because
then they're
she is good at
dancing.
it. That's the funny
Yeah,
thing. Like, I think, like, that's what they're
she's,
like,
like,
"Oh, she actually
accidentally good at it.
accidentally, like, exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I love that the movie starts and ends with the tango too,
Yes.
which
Mhm.
apparently it's funny. Arnold Schwarzenegger did a lot of his stunts actually,
Mm.
and but the thing he was scared most of was the dancing. So
Oh my god.
he rehearsed for like 6 months because he was like, because he's not a dancer, so he would really
Whoa.
worked hard at
Oh my
that
god,
to
that's
get it.
dedication.
I know. I mean, I'm sure it was amongst other doing other
Yeah.
things, but yeah, he was practicing because he wanted it to look like he wanted to be like James Bond and be like look
Yeah.
like he could actually kind of dance. So,
'Cause it's that kinda
um,
role where, like, you would believe,
mhm.
that he would know everything. He knows all these languages, he knows all these dances, like, that's what he's trained to do, right?
It's
Yeah.
the James Bond, yeah. So
Mhm.
that's why, yeah. So I like that it ends with the
It's
beginning and
cute.
ends with the tango, just with different ladies. Because
Yes.
he's dancing
Mhm.
at the end with the lady he's supposed to always be dancing with,
Yes,
Helen.
exactly. Uh-huh. Yeah, give her the respect she deserves, right? Don't
Exactly,
make her wait up.
exactly.
I don't believe I've met you before.
Rehnquist. Harry Rehnquist.
I miss Tia Carrere. She was
So
so
I wondered because I loved her in like Wayne's World
Oh, yeah, she
and
was, like, really having a moment in
yeah,
the
she's
'90s.
stunningly beautiful.
Beautiful, and she's so good. She's funny, but
And I really
also
like yes.
badass, you know? Yeah.
So I don't know what really I should have looked more into that. Did
Yeah, I
it's
don't
2
know what
movies.
she's
I
been
did a
up
lot of
to.
research, but yeah.
Oh, I know, yeah,
Um,
I know this was a big, workload for
yeah,
getting prepared, but,
I
yeah, I
know.
hope it'd be nice to see her in something because I wouldn't be surprised if she still looks banging, and,
Yeah,
she's good. She's got such good sassy energy. I'd love to see her in something, you know?
agreed.
Whenever I can't sleep, I just ask him to tell me about his day. 6 seconds and I'm out.
And Jamie Lee
Interesting.
Curtis did win a Golden Globe for her performance, as she
That's
should.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I
And I did
mean
read that
mhm.
her and, Sandra Bullock, I think, tied for a Saturn Award for Best Female Lead or
Oh, I
something.
love it. Yeah,
I
for, like,
love it.
action or something,
It's like
yeah.
the Saturn Awards is just like the sci-fi,
They
sci-fi and
both are
action movie.
they really are so
So
perfectly cast for
good.
these movies,
So
so
good.
it's just funny
So
to know
good.
that, like, they weren't the first choice, for some people,
Yeah.
so but
Yeah.
they are perfect for it. Yeah,
Yeah. Agreed. Great casts for both. So
and
I
this was
think
back when Jamie Lee was, addicted to, opiates. Do you remember
I
that?
didn't
She
know
was
that.
Oh, yeah.
No.
She, 25 earlier this year, she celebrated 25 years sober, so, she was
Oh.
addicted for all throughout the '90s. She basically said, like, she made, like, Halloween H2O because she wanted money for drugs. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh
and,
my
like,
gosh,
some of
that's so
the
sad.
yeah, she was really hooked on opioids, maybe even in the '80s, but I know definitely throughout the '90s. So this like, during this movie, like, yeah, she was hooked. So it's sad, but
Wow, I
luckily
didn't know
she's
that.
totally sober now. She's been sober since, I guess, '99 is when she
Yeah,
officially stopped doing that.
right after
Yeah.
H2O. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
wow. Good for her. I love her. I love
I
her.
know. It's great that she's, persevered, and of course, now she's an Oscar winner and still doing
Yeah, she's
amazing
fabulous.
things
Love
and
her.
more famous than ever, you know? So, yeah, she is
Yeah.
pretty inspiring for sure.
So it always fascinates when you hear that, like, because you see such great performances and you're like, wow, they were on
Yeah.
drugs that whole time.
Yeah, like,
Like, how
she
do you
was
function, let alone be so that's how talented you
I
are. Jeez
know,
Louise.
right?
It's like
Yeah.
musicians. I'm like, how do you I wouldn't even be able to walk straight on opiates. You're like acting.
know.
Other people are playing instruments and performing. I'm like, oh my
Yeah, the stuff they do. I know.
Yay, Jamie. Yay, being clean.
Yay, Jamie. And yay, everyone, for these great movies.
What can I say? I'm a spy.
I've been told by friends that you are a great guest with all the research you do. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. All your guests are amazing, though. So,
Luckily, it's always fun talking to everyone. It's always so good talking to you about movies
Everyone's
that we
got
love.
little different things that they like to talk. I like the fun
Totally.
facts. Other people, like, I just, like,
So everyone appreciates you with your research skills. Good for you could work with Harry and Tom Arnold, and you could be the researcher, right? And
If
Charlton
only, that would be
Heston
so
randomly.
cool. And with an eye patch. I want an eye patch.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly. And that's the end of the episode. Yay, we beat the bad guys. Terrorists, take note. If you have Arnold or Keanu as your enemies, it's not going to end well for you. Thank you, everybody, for listening to or watching this episode of Release Date Rewind. And thank you, my longtime friend Katie Bruno, for returning and rewinding with me. Thanks also to OT, Jeff, and Jackie for your cameos. Follow me on Instagram at Release Date Rewind to see clips of this conversation and more content about these great movies. Thank you also Straw Hut Media Network, Kyle Motzinger, Greg Clements, and Portland Media Center. And next time, everybody, we're going on another 80s adventure on this podcast to Fantasia with the never-ending story. It's early. My voice isn't warmed up. I mean, I know that wasn't my best, but you get it. Bye.